Okay, if you've got a neuroanatomy exam just around the corner and you're feeling the pressure, you are in exactly the right place. Think of this as your survival guide. We're going to build the brain from the ground up, but we're only going to focus on those high-yield concepts that are going to get you across the finish line. So, let's kick things off by busting a pretty famous myth.
So, you've heard this one, right? That we only use 10% of our brain. Well, the answer is a huge resounding no. That is a total myth. We use pretty much all of it, just, at different times for different things. To really get a handle on the brain's incredible power, we need a map. And the absolute best way to draw that map is to look at the original blueprint, how it develops in the first place. So yeah, we're starting right at the beginning. Seriously, understanding the brain's super complex structure gets a whole lot easier when you see how it all starts from just a few simple folds and bubbles. This right here is the foundation for absolutely everything else we're going to talk about. What's just wild about this whole process is how fast it happens. I mean, think about it. At just 19 days after gestation, we have this flat little sheet of cells called the neural plate. A mere 3 days later, it's already folded into a groove that zips up to form the neural tube. And by day 40, that simple tube is already bending and bulging, creating these primary vesicles that are literally the blueprint for the entire nervous system. The transformation is just astounding.
And here they are, these 5 vesicles. These are the non-negotiables for your exam. Honestly, think of them as the 5 fundamental chapters of our story today. Every single major brain structure we're about to discuss grows from one of these 5. If you can get these names down, I promise, the rest of the brain's layout will start to snap into place. Let's jump to our very first vesicle and see how it builds up into the most complex part of our nervous system. So the telencephalon, it just balloons out to become what we all picture when we think of the brain. The cerebrum with that wrinkly cortex. This is our thinking cap. Quick pop quiz. How many lobes are in the human brain? If you said 4, you're not alone. But for your exam, the correct answer is 6. You've got the 4 you can see on the outside, the frontal, parietal, temporal, and occipital. But then there are 2 more tucked away deep inside, the insular and limbic lobes. And it's so important to connect these to their jobs. For example, Broca's area, which produces speech, is in the frontal lobe, while Wernicke's area, for understanding language, is over in the temporal lobe. So how do all these different parts talk to each other? Well, through these massive bundles of white matter, basically the brain's wiring. You can think of them as 3 types of communication highways. Association fibers are like the local roads connecting different spots in the same hemisphere. Commissural fibers, like the giant corpus callosum, are the big bridges connecting the left and right hemispheres. And then you have the projection fibers, which are like the long-haul interstates, connecting the cortex all the way down to the spinal cord. Okay, let's take a journey inward from the cortex. Growing out of our second vesicle, the diencephalon, is a collection of structures sitting right smack in the middle of the brain. This is the central processing hub, and one part of it is absolutely vital for how we experience the world around us. And this perfectly describes the job of the thalamus. You got to think of it as the brain's post office or its grand central station. Pretty much every piece of sensory mail, everything you see, hear, taste, and touch, it all arrives here first. The thalamus then sorts it all and sends it off to the right department in the cerebral cortex to be processed. The only sense that gets a direct pass, completely bypassing this station, is smell. Now we're moving down into the brainstem and cerebellum, which develop from those last 3 vesicles, the mesencephalon, metencephalon, and myelencephalon. This is the oldest part of our brain. It's responsible for the absolute basics, keeping us alive, breathing, coordinated, all the stuff that just keeps the lights on. Its functions are so fundamental that any damage here can be totally catastrophic. The brainstem is also where most of the cranial nerves pop out. Now, for your exam, this is pure gold. Connecting these nerves to clinical problems is a super high-yield strategy. For instance, if you damage cranial nerve I, the olfactory nerve, you can lose your sense of smell, something a lot of people experienced with COVID. Or if you damage cranial nerve 7, the facial nerve, that can lead to Bell's palsy, where one side of the face is paralyzed. Knowing these connections is key. Okay, tucked right behind the brainstem is the cerebellum, the little brain, which is so important for coordinating movement. It's got its own little gray matter structures inside called nuclei. And for exam day, you're in luck, because here is a fantastic mnemonic to remember their names, going from the outside in. Don't eat greasy food gives you dentates, emboliform, globose, and fastigial. Now here's why this isn't just a fun party trick.
These 4 nuclei are the only way the cerebellum can talk to the rest of the brain. They are the sole output channels. Every single command it sends to smooth out and coordinate your movements goes through one of them. That's why even a tiny bit of damage here can have such a huge clinical impact. It basically silences the whole structure.
All right, our final stop on this whirlwind tour is the spinal cord. This is the great information superhighway that runs down from the brainstem, carrying all the messages to and from the rest of your body. And it's got a really specific organization that's actually the opposite of the brain.
And this right here highlights a huge difference you just have to know. In the brain, the gray matter, the processing centers, the cell bodies, is on the outside in the cortex. And the white matter, the wiring, is on the inside. The spinal cord is flipped, it's inside out. The white matter highways are on the outside, and the gray matter processing stations are bundled up safely in the middle. So why the inside-out setup? Well, it's perfect for creating shortcuts. That central butterfly-shaped gray matter has sensory neurons coming into the back and motor neurons going out the front. And in between them, these little connectors called interneurons can link the two directly, creating what's called a reflex arc. This is how you can snatch your hand away from a hot stove before your brain even has time to say, ouch. It's a lightning-fast, automatic response that the spinal cord handles all by itself. All right, let's do a quick-fire recap. We started with that 5-vesicle blueprint. From there, we built the 6-lobed telencephalon with its 3 types of communication cables. We dove deep to find the thalamus, the central post office for our senses. Then we explored the brainstem's critical cranial nerves and the cerebellum with 4 essential output nuclei. And we wrapped up by seeing how the spinal cord's unique inside-out structure makes those life-saving reflexes possible. So I'm going to leave you with one final thought, a classic exam-style question to really get your gears turning. A patient comes in, and they're having trouble planning and starting movements. But, and this is the key, they have no muscle weakness. So the problem isn't the muscles themselves. Based on our quick tour today, what collection of structures deep down in the telencephalon might be acting up? Give it some thought. Connecting the anatomy to what it does is the absolute key to crushing your exam. Good luck.